Let's find out if 3 of Asics' premium indoor court shoes are great for badminton: the Court Control FF3, the Blast FF3 and the Blade FF. Spoiler alert, I did like them, but I had some serious issues. Asics as a brand needs no further introduction in the world of shoes, and because they have a very loyal and dedicated fan base, you can see them everywhere, from sports to fashion. They do know how to make great shoes. However, whilst they don't exclusively produce shoes for the world of badminton, they do produce a series of very high quality shoes which are catered towards indoor sports such as volleyball, netball, handball, squash, table tennis and more. Sports that are played in an indoor hall or court, and you will certainly see Asics shoes running around. So when Asics reached out and asked if I wanted to test some of their court shoes, I immediately jumped at the chance, as I've not tested many badminton shoes apart from the 3 traditional leading badminton brands, from Yonex, Li-Ning and Victor. Now, I'm no shoe expert, but throughout my experience of testing badminton shoes on my channel, I've found my preferences have changed with the more shoes that I've tested, especially when now I play on a variety of surfaces more often. Previously, I had great access to a dedicated badminton hall with rubber mats, which, as you all know, are super incredible. But nowadays, I just spend more time playing in halls which are multi-purpose. Hence, I really appreciate how grippy a shoe is to me. The ability to stop when I want to, as well as change in direction as and when I need to when I'm playing. Granted, the court conditions do play a big part, as a dusty or dirty surface will be slippery, but I always have my trusty damp cloth in my badminton bag, just in case. Having slipped on court and been injured reinforced this desire for grippy shoes, and the confidence I need when I lunge into a corner at full stretch is very important to me. There's always something in my head if I'm playing on a court that is slippery. Additionally, I do appreciate a pair of shoes that feels secure and locked in. Obviously, other properties such as cushioning and weight also plays a part in that decision-making process too. Picking a pair of shoes is a very personalized process. So the first thing that pops into my head when I unbox these Asics shoes are, ooh, these feel premium and they're very well made. Checking prices online also tells me the Court Control and Blast models are high-end shoes, and the Blade is just one step below. But still, the finished product looks and feel good, whilst they match up really well, if not better than other badminton shoes competitions on the market. It felt like all 3 models of the shoes were designed for different needs, with the Court Control looking like the tank that will absolutely take on anything and protect your feet, whilst the Blast and Blade shoes are more for players who want more compact with lighter comfort and protection. Upon closer inspection, the Court Control felt like a shoe that is designed to provide that stability and confidence to the player that's also wanting lots of comfort and support. It's kind of like a premium do-it-all shoe. The Blast, on the other hand, had a slightly different design to the Court Control. The Blast had incorporated what Asics says is a mono sock design around the heel area, but in the badminton world, they resemble what Yonex did with their booty design on some of the previous models of the Comfort series shoes. The mono sock design also means that the tongue of the shoe goes all the way to the heel support, and it's a single piece of material which is designed to wrap around your foot. I never had any major issues with these designs, but I know of others who either loved it or not. But the Blast also shares a similar outsole to the Court Control FF, but the underside of the Blast does have ventilation vents, which will help when things get heated up. Another thing that I noticed immediately when seeing the shoes for the first time was the bulge on the outside of the foot, just below where our pinky toes are. It felt quite pronounced on the Court Control, and I was able to instantly feel it when I was wearing the shoe out of the box. The Blast had a similar looking bulge, but it wasn't as pronounced as the Court Control. This section of the shoe is certainly designed for the extra stability when lunging on court, and that extra stability helps promote confidence and perhaps smoother transitions on court too. The bulges were pronounced on the Blast and Court Control shoes, but were not on the Blade, which looked more normal. And talking about the Blade also felt lightest immediately out of the box, and also having the softest upper, meaning lots of flexibility and comfort there. However, lighter shoes often mean slightly more lightweight cushioning, and the Blade does have a slightly different design of outsole compared to the Blast and Court Control shoes. The Blade also incorporates what Asics coined as twist truss around the arch area of the foot, which is very rigid and aimed at providing better support to faster directional changes when starting and stopping on court. The Blast had something similar, but it covered a wider area, and Asics named it the turn truss, but I think they both do the same thing. Obviously, if you're playing badminton, remember to protect your precious badminton rackets from chips and scratches with the premium racket protection tape, with free delivery worldwide on ckydw.com/shop. Also, whilst you're there, check out the limited edition player signed print experience too. In terms of weight, the Court Control comes in at 676 grams a pair or 338 grams a side, which isn't particularly light for today's standards, but not heavy. For the protection it offers is actually pretty cool. Just for further reference, all the shoes tested here are in my size, which is 280 millimeters or 28 centimeters. I often use millimeters or centimeters for shoe sizes as they are accurate and can translate into any size that corresponds to that measurement. Different brands have different numbers for sizing and also depending on regions too. For example, in Yonex and Victor badminton shoes, I would normally be a UK 9.5. Leaning badminton shoes, I'm a UK 10. But for Asics, I'm just a UK size 9. So measure your foot with your badminton socks on, people. For the Blast, I was surprised to find it coming in at 682 grams a pair or 341 grams a side. Just a touch heavier than the Court Control. This was because when I test wore it for the first time, I even made a note to say that it felt lighter than the Court Control, and very clearly, it's just slightly heavier. We measure with our eyes in this case. The blade, as I initially felt, did come in lightest at only 566 grams a pair or 283 grams per side. To put them in perspective with other high-end badminton shoes I've tested on the channel before, the current generation of ultralight badminton shoes, the Yonex Air Z, was only 529 grams per pair, and the leaning ultralight shoe model, the Blast SE, was just a touch heavier at 576 grams a pair. This already meant that the Asics Blade FF was already lighter than the leaning Blast SE. Other top-end popular models include the Yonex Power Cushion 65 in blue, which came in at 667 grams a pair. The C90 sustainable version was lighter at 648 grams, whilst my other personal favorite, the Infinity 2 with the boa dials, came in at just 630 grams a pair. The super comfortable and supportive Eclipsion was 731 grams a pair, and the Comfort came in heaviest at 740 grams a pair at my size. Victor's A970 Nitro Lights came in at 732 grams a pair. Review coming soon, so make sure you're subscribed. From these, we can see that the Court Control and Blast just slid in around the Yonex Power Cushion 65 series shoe weight, and I'll use the 65 as a benchmark in terms of comparison for fit and feel as we go along. So let's talk about the fit. For the Court Control, you do feel pretty locked in and secure. There are lots of padding around the ankle area, but the shoe fit is pretty tight around the front of the shoe. If you wear thicker socks or have a thicker or bigger feet, perhaps be careful and make sure you try the shoes before you buy. In comparison, the Blast felt instantly more flexible or softer compared to the Court Control due to the softer materials on the top, but the top side of the Blast again was quite shallow, so you might actually feel the Blast is quite tight again at the top. I can again see the bulge on the outside of my foot, but I don't feel it anywhere as pronounced as the Court Control this time when having the Blast on. When I transitioned onto the blade, the fit experience that I could describe after testing the Court Control and Blast was the blade felt a bit more basic compared to the other two. I guess this is to be expected as the blade is one price point below, but it also goes to show how complex shoe designs are and how well Asics are doing with the design and production teams. The blade also provided me with more space on the top of the shoe compared to the other two, and there was no bulging on the side of the foot. Comfy. So what happens when you're on court? In all the testing I've done, I had one major problem on court, but before we get into that, all three pairs of shoes performed well, and in comparison to the Yonex Power Cushion 65, I felt the Court Control provided more padding and felt more secure and locked in. And even in my notes, I thought the Court Control felt more like the Yonex Eclipsion, which had incredible cushioning and stability, which is what the Court Control's strengths were. And because of it being lighter than the Eclipsions, I think Asics does have an advantage there. For the Blast, the fit was slightly different due to the monosock design. I had some sliding on the Blast's insole, but nothing major, and you get used to it very quickly. The blade, in comparison to the 65, felt like it had thinner cushioning, as well as the Court Control and Blast 2. Again, being the lightest of the bunch meant weight savings came from extra padding and cushioning, but I had no issues at all with how the blade performed, and it was comfy enough for me to jump around it. But the one major issue I had with all three shoes were the outsoles. At the start of the video, I mentioned that how grippy a shoe on court mattered a lot to me, and unfortunately my experience of all three pairs of shoes across multiple holes were consistent in this regard. Let me explain. If you're playing in courts with dedicated rubber mats or squeaky clean holes, no problem at all. All three pairs, as well as Yonex Power Cushion 65s, grippy as anything. But as soon as you move to a slightly dustier hole, the Asics' shoes just don't cope as well as Yonex's radial blade design outsoles, which were present on the Power Cushion 65. I used all my usual tricks when playing in a dusty hole: damp cloth, wiping the shoe's outsole before going on court, and even wiping down the whole court before the start of the session. And still, Asics' outsoles just couldn't cope well enough. At first, I thought it was just the hole hole being really bad, but because I always bring my usual pair of shoes when testing new shoes, I decided to swap onto the 65s because I was so fed up during one of my testing sessions, and wow, it was a significant difference. 2 days later at a separate hole, cleaner hole too, but still multi-purpose hole, and the night before I took the time to clean all 3 pairs of Asics outsoles, and after a while they became slippery again, and I was already jumping on my wet cloth in between each rallies to clean them. And again, as soon as I swapped onto the 65s, I had no such issue, and I was just genuinely surprised. I did say way back in my very first review of Younex's very first shoe with the radial blade design that I do feel it's grippier and better design, and wow, I think this just validated what I felt from day one back then. The only explanation I could give is perhaps the radial blade designs are similar to a car's winter tires, where the sipes in the grooves improve traction by allowing those little blades on the outsole to move ever so slightly. This process actually increases traction. If we look at Asics' thread patterns on the Court Control and Blast, they feel and look more like a slick racing tire, as it's almost carved out from a single piece of material and doesn't allow the same individual wiggle as the radial blade outsole design. But other than this one single issue I had, the Asics shoes were great. Comfortable, supportive, stable, and well made across all 3 models. Any one of you have the same issues I had? I'd like to know. And I really want to see an updated design of the outsole from Asics, especially when a better outsole would also benefit all other indoor court sport athletes too. The shoe quality and production shown on all 3 models were great, and I can see why so many people were loyal to the brand. I actually think many badminton brands could actually learn a thing or two from Asics' shoe making prowess here. They do know how to make good shoes. Leave any questions you have in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.